Hello everybody, welcome back to Eileen's Craft Nook. Today we're working on a winter project. So I have this deer mold with the stand, and once it's done, the deer fits into the stand and sit-ups. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the base in a dark blue pigment, and I'm going to do the base coat of the deer in this Reflections iridescent pigment. And I am going to be just putting a shallow layer in because I am going to be adding something to the top of the deer to make it wintry, to give it a wintry look to keep out. So when you're mixing up your micas or your pigment powders, give them a good mix so that they don't have any lumps in them. This one is pretty. It does have that little iridescent shine to it. So I'm just going to pour it in and I'm going to let it move into the rest of the mold on its own. I'll let it make its way into those antlers. And then I'll do the same with the dark blue. Now this dark blue is the same. It's from Reflections. I get these at Michael's. I normally, this year I waited for a buy one get one free sale and then I stocked up. I love this color. It's beautiful. This beautiful sapphire-ish blue looks so nice when it's mixed up. I'm going to pour that into the base. Be careful not to cover up those two pegs because that's where the feet will fit in once it's dry. So I'm just going to give this a spritz with my isopropyl and then let it go ahead and dry. Now my first layer of the deer is dry, and I have this paper that I picked up from the dollar store, and I'm just going to trace out the deer because I want to use this paper on top of the deer to give it a really pretty wintry look with those snowflakes. So I'm tracing it out. I discovered later that it was because it's the outside of the mold, it doesn't fit in. I had to do a lot of trimming on it, so you'll see in a bit that I end up taking the deer out of the mold and tracing it just because it was a pain, especially around those antlers. It was a little bit fiddly to cut out. I struggle with cutting stuff out anyways with my carpal tunnel, so this, while not a difficult project, was a little difficult to get this cut out. So I go ahead and cut out the outline, and once I'm done that, I go to fit it over top, realize that it needs quite a bit more trimming. And so that's when I decide to just go ahead and take the deer out. I do end up putting it back in to put the top coat on, but it's fine. It doesn't leak underneath or anything like that. So I had no problems taking the deer out, fitting it to the paper, and then just putting it back in. Now, keep in mind that this was sped up about 3 times, so this did take me a little bit to get this paper cut out and fitted into the mold. That's what the majority of this project was that cutting. Now, I did try it with an X-Acto knife before I tried the scissors. And my X-Acto knife is not the best, so I wasn't having a great time with that. And here's where I decided the main reason I took it out is for those antlers, because there's no way I was going to be able to trace those with this in the mold. So I took it out, hoping I'd be able to get a better trace of those antlers with the paper so that I could fit it back in. So here I am. I start with the X-Acto knife thinking I would just cut around. I put some tape on it, hoping it wouldn't shift. But again, I think it's more because my X-Acto knife, it's not the best quality. It's just from Dollar Tree. I even snapped off, one of the blades to give it a fresh blade. But I decided instead to change directions, and I traced it out with a pencil, and then once again tried it with the X-Acto knife and ended up using scissors to trim it out. Now, because the color I used as my background blends pretty good with the color of the paper, it doesn't have to be perfect. Mine is not perfect around the antlers, but you don't see it because I chose that white. If you had chosen a different color for the background, then it would have made more of a difference. You would have seen any places that the paper didn't quite fit. You'd see it more. But matching that color as close as you can to the main color of your paper is a good idea, so that you don't have to be perfect. So you can see here I'm using my X-Acto knife. It was working okay, but I decided that it was just easier to go with the scissors, and that's how I finished trimming this. So if I do this project again, which I might, because it did turn out nice, I could use different papers. I would just do the resin layer, pull the deer out and trace it, and skip that first step where I traced it around the mold with this one because of those antlers. Now here I have it all trimmed. I have it poked into those antlers. Again, it's not perfect, but you don't see it in the end result. I did use some of my glue stick to glue it down, to hold it down a bit better, and I'm just top coating it with a clear layer that I added just a little bit of white sparkle to. Actually, I think at this point I had forgotten to add the white sparkle, and I added it in afterwards. So this is just clear resin, and then I sprinkled some of my white glitter into the mold and just mixed it up with my little daubing tool here to give it that little bit of sparkle, which I really wanted to have, especially being a snowflake background. So here I'm just, making sure it gets into all the different crevices. I'm not worried in the antlers, that paper sticking up a bit. I'm really not worried about it. As long as it has at least a thin layer on there, you're not going to notice, again, if it's not perfect. So here I'm just going to go ahead and let it dry, give it a spritz to get the bubbles out. All right, our winter themed deer is mostly dry. It is ready to unmold. So let's go ahead and do it. Now I know it's going to need some cleanup around here, around the antlers. This was, not going to lie, this was this part, not so bad to cut out, but these little antlers, cutting that paper out and getting it to the right size, that was a little bit of a chore. So took some patience, and it's not perfect, which is fine. You're not going to, unless you're looking up close, you're not going to really notice that anyways. So let's go ahead and get this out. That. Now, if you wanted to, you could just use it like this, and it just fits into, I'll probably have to trim the feet up a bit too, but let's just take a look. That just fits in here. So you could have just a plain one, or I love this to leave out just for the winter time with the snowflakes, a little bit of sparkle and the deer. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up a bit, and I'll be right back to show you what it looks like in the stand. I have it all cleaned up and in the stand, and this is a finished project. I think this looks fabulous. I love the dark blue base with the, complements those blue snowflakes and the nice white background. And this was a nice, simple, inexpensive project to do. And I'm going to be putting this out on by my TV for the winter. Thanks for joining, Thanks for joining me, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.